Throughout this week, as House Democrats, we have engaged in a process of talking to each other. Those conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they continue. Until that process has concluded, I'm not going to address what any outside stakeholders may have to say about this matter.
Sir, how much longer can you allow the groping to go on before it ultimately wounds him?
House Democrats, Senate Democrats, and President Biden are unified on the affirmative agenda that we have for the American people related to lowering housing costs or ending price gouging or growing the middle class, defending democracy, and fighting for reproductive freedom. President Biden, House Democrats, and Senate Democrats are also united in pushing back against Project 2025 and the extreme MAGA Republican agenda. That's unifying, not dividing us.
Leader Jeffries, President Biden has said he's staying in this race, but after your conversations throughout this week, do you think it's time for him to reconsider that based on what you're hearing?
Our conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they are ongoing.
Leader Jeffries, you said that...
Hold on.
Leader Jeffries,
Right there. You.
Oh, thank you, Leader Jeffries. I do want to ask, so you have another frontliner coming out today, Congresswoman Hillary Scalton, calling for Biden to step aside. You have Greg Landsman saying that he's getting closer to that conclusion. Are you worried that Biden is a liability for your most vulnerable members?
No.
Do you think that Democrats still have a path to winning back the House if Biden stays at the top of the ticket?
House Democrats will win back control of the House of Representatives on November 5th and vacate the extreme MAGA Republican majority as long as we are able to clearly communicate our agenda of putting people over politics, lowering costs, growing the middle class, defending fundamental freedoms and democracy, and contrast that with the extreme MAGA Republican agenda, which will destroy working families and the middle class way of life as we know it. Thanks.
Do you believe Biden's made a final decision about whether to stay in the race?
As I indicated, House Democrats are engaged in conversations with House Democrats at this moment in time. Those conversations have been candid, clear-eyed, and comprehensive. And that's important for us to do as a House Democratic Caucus family. And as long as those conversations are ongoing, I'm going to respect the sanctity of those conversations until we conclude that process.
Thank you very much, Leader Jeffries. I want to ask about appropriations. The last time the Speaker's job was threatened, it was your caucus that bailed him out, gave him the support to survive, and that was very important to him maintaining his job. In that context, what are your priorities for the appropriations process that's underway, and do you plan to use your leverage over the Speaker to get some of your priorities through, and if not, then why not?
In connection with the appropriations process, we've had no discussion about a theoretical or hypothetical motion to vacate. We take every issue and evaluate it in a serious, substantive, and sober fashion. That's before the Congress, and that's what we'll continue to do. With respect to the current appropriations process, we've been very clear that in May of last year, House Democrats, Senate Democrats, House Republicans, and Senate Republicans, in partnership with President Biden, reached an agreement connected to the Bipartisan Fiscal Responsibility Act. That agreement in this upcoming fiscal year calls for a top-line spending number of $1681. The Republicans in the House right now are marking up an appropriations bill at $1606. That means they are cutting $75 billion from their own agreement reached with everyone else under the Capitol Dome and President Joe Biden, along with Vice President Kamala Harris. That $75 billion cut will adversely impact the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, hurt children, hurt seniors, hurt veterans, and hurt many others. It's unacceptable. It's not sustainable. We are not going to accept a dime less than the 1681 number that we all agreed upon. The behavior of the extreme MAGA Republicans right now, and by the way, they're unable to pass their own reckless appropriations bills, which should tell you everything you need to know, suggests to me that they are marching the country to a dangerous government shutdown at the end of September.
You talk about these internal discussions that are ongoing. Do you have any timeline for that, or are we just going to see this internal discussion go on ad infinitum?
There are 213 voting members of the House Democratic Caucus and 3 additional delegates. Every single one of those voices is important. Throughout this Congress, we've tried to engage when we've been confronting unprecedented event after unprecedented event after unprecedented event in a process of maximum communication in order to arrive at an enlightened path forward. That's what we've done every single day of the 118th Congress, and that's going to continue.
Mr. Leader,
In the back?
thank you, Mr. Leader.
Could you just talk a little bit about what advice you have for lawmakers right now as they're weighing this sort of moment for the party and for the president, and they're deciding what to say and what should happen? I imagine many of them we hear are hearing from their constituents. What should they tell their constituents, and what advice do you have for them as they weigh their own personal decisions on what they believe is the best path forward?
It's important for us to continue to engage with each other here in the United States House of Representatives, but even more important for our members, as they have been doing, to engage with their constituents back home on any issue. This is representative democracy, and the House is the institution that the framers designed to be the closest to the American people, to reflect the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations, the fears, the concerns, the anxieties, and in the words of the framers, the passions of the American people. That requires intimate engagement with the people back home that we're privileged to represent on any matter, but certainly on matters of consequence.
Thank you, Leader. If President Biden fails to deliver tonight at tonight's press conference, how will Democrats move forward?
That's a speculative question, and as I indicated, we're involved in an internal process that we take seriously, and until that process is concluded, I'm not really in a position to comment on external events.
How much